Yo, all right, welcome to day 2 of the Cycle Breaker Challenge. Okay, today we got a lot of good stuff for y'all. Today we got wisdom. Okay, I'm gonna get a better intro going in a minute. Let me just go ahead and pull this up. All right, so today we're gonna talk about wisdom. Okay, it's gonna be a teaching on biblical wisdom and why power without wisdom leads to exhaustion instead of breakthrough. Okay, you're gonna find this video in the group coaching. Okay, if you're here first time, and it'll be uploaded after this video. So we're doing this live right now, and after this video, you're gonna be able to access it. Also, there's gonna be an exercise in the lesson. You're gonna see that there and under resources, wisdom versus power. That's going to be an exercise that's going to be designed to help you identify where you've been applying effort without wisdom and where wisdom must lead first. Okay, so go ahead and pull that up, and I'll pull it up with you. Okay, I got my iPad here. Instructions are easy. You're just going to answer all 10 of the questions. They're multiple choice, and then the last 2 are there's more than 3 questions. If you guys are pulling it up, make sure you hit the download button so that way you get all of the questions. Otherwise, like from what I'm looking at on my iPad, it doesn't show all 3 unless I hit the download button. So you're gonna answer the questions, pretty straightforward, and the last 3 is gonna be short answer. Okay, should be pretty easy, and the answer key is gonna be in a link that I'm gonna provide in the course. So if you have any questions, make sure you reach out to me and let me know before that comes out. So wisdom, governance before power. Listen, we're gonna talk about why you're stuck in a cycle. So in this lesson, you should be able to produce why power alone never breaks cycles. You're going to know why prayer without wisdom stalls progress. Also, how wisdom governs outcomes across times, and why freedom requires alignment, not force. This is going to help you establish wisdom as the governing layer that determines whether power produces freedom or repetition. Let's get into it. The real problem. You're not lacking power, you've been applying force to a system. Patterns are systems. Systems are not overpowered. Systems are dismantled through wisdom. Power accelerates outcomes. Wisdom determines which outcomes occur. Now, that's pretty straightforward, okay? But if you don't understand, it's okay. We're going to go through it, and we're going to make sure that you understand everything once we get to the end. If you have any questions, be sure to write them in the comments on the pinned post, which is going to be in the community. Yeah, let's keep it moving. Power without wisdom wastes strength. Okay, there's a verse in the Bible that says, if the iron be blunt and he do not whet the edge, meaning sharpen the edge, then he must put more strength. But wisdom is profitable to direct, meaning you can have a dull axe. Okay, you could try to chop with that dull axe, but if you don't sharpen it, guess what? The more you use it, the harder it's going to become. The more work you're going to have to put in. And this is what a lot of y'all are doing. Y'all are putting in more work than you need to. You're putting in way more work than you should because you don't have wisdom. Okay? Wisdom is going to say, hey, sharpen the axe. Now it's going to be a lot easier. Now there's a sacrifice that's made. Now remember, because in order to sharpen the axe, you have to take time away from the chopping of the wood. And the fool would be foolish to say, hey, you stop chopping that wood, you're not making any progress. But a wise man will say, no, I'm sharpening my axe so that the progress will, 1, be easier, 2, be faster, and 3, be more efficient. Okay, so make sure you sharpen your axe. And if you don't know how to sharpen your axe, it's okay. We're going to go through it today to make sure that you guys are sharp, okay, with wisdom. Strength equals power. Sharpening equals wisdom. Okay, a blunt axe is going to be equivalent to misapplied effort. More power is just going to lead to exhaustion. Okay, there's a saying that I always say, that we say in a mechanical world, if something is hard, if you're doing work and it's hard, you're using the wrong tool. It's that simple. Okay. If nothing should be hard. Wisdom does not replace power, it directs it. Okay. Now, just because you have wisdom doesn't mean you can't get out there and start chopping the axe. If you can't even lift the axe, you need to get in that gym. You understand what I'm saying? It doesn't replace the power. It only directs it. Okay. So prayer. Let's talk about prayer, because a lot of people, remember, this is a kingdom-based course. So we're going to be talking about prayer, kingdom principles, and everything like that. Okay. And this is what's going to allow you to be free. This is what's going to allow you to break those cycles, because the word says you cannot eat from the table of the enemy and of mine. You can't eat from both tables. Okay. So you can get freedom in a different way, but that's going to cost you. Okay. If you're doing it this way, you have to do it 100% this way. Don't try to do it this way and then do it that way. Okay. Because it's not going to work for you. And that's why some people are stuck. It's because they want to play both sides of the fence. But the thing about playing both sides of the fence is you're not on either side of the fence. The mansion, if you got two mansions, one's on this side and one's on that side, and you're trying to get to the mansion, but you're on the fence, you will never get to either mansion because you're stuck in the middle. You're stuck at zero. You're always at zero. Okay. So we're always going to have kingdom principles here. And right now, what we're talking about is prayer. Okay. Because when it comes to prayer, a lot of people, what I see is people will pray and they go, oh, well, prayer is not working. God don't answer me. Because the thing is, it's a cheat code. Okay. It's simple. It's easy. If you ask, you shall receive. So let's get into it. Okay. Because prayer is just speaking to God. That's all it is. Okay. But one mistake that I see a lot of times that people say is prayer is powerful, but that's untrue. Prayer is just speaking. Prayer is not powerful. Answered prayer is powerful. Okay. Because if you pray and your prayer's not answered, or if it is answered, because it's always going to be answered. If it's answered and you're not listening to the answer, if it's answers and you're not taking heed to the advice, then it's useless. Okay. So prayer is not power. Power does not come from prayer. Power comes from answered prayer. All right. So give me a second while I switch my slides real quick, because I have a different slide than I need. I need to get a more updated one real quick. I think it's this one. Nope. All right. Here we go. So yeah. So, and prayer is just speaking to God. Okay. Answer prayer is where power is going to be released. Like I was saying, prayer without listening, prayer without discernment, prayer without obedience, it's not going to do anything for you. Okay. It's not going to produce any outcome. You understand? And without alignment produces noise, not change. You're better off not listening at all. All right. So than praying. You were better off not praying at all than praying and not listening. It's the same thing. But one of them, you basically wasted your time. All right. Sin, separation, and misalignment. Sin and all its derivatives. So first of all, we're going to talk about the word sin, because a lot of people think that sin means doing wrong. That's not true. Okay. Sin and all its derivatives results in, and as a matter of fact, this is not even written right. It says results in separation from God, but sin actually is separation from God. Okay. That's what sin is. It's separation from God. So anything you're doing apart from God, you're in sin. You understand? Separation can be defined as sin, misalignment, acting against wisdom, disobedience, ignoring instruction. All of these things is going to cause you to be separated. Okay. So the first thing we really need to do is define what wisdom is. What does wisdom even mean? As a matter of fact, I think I was on the right slide. Let me go back. I think this is the outdated slide. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I had the right slide. It's all right. It's mostly the same. I'll provide y'all with the context that you need. The dictionary's definition of wisdom is going to be the ability to judge correctly and act appropriately, especially when outcomes are uncertain. All right. Oh, dang, the camera's on this side. I've been looking on the other side the whole time. Oh, bad job. The ability to judge correctly and act appropriately, especially when outcomes are uncertain. Okay, in a biblical frame, which is important to know, because when you talk about biblical versus dictionary, one of them came before the other. Guess which one's which? I'll wait. So one came before the other. Obviously, it's the Bible, which means one has an original meaning. One can have an altered meaning, has the potential to have altered meaning. And more likely than not, the more a word is used, the more it gets changed over time. Okay? You got to understand that and keep that in mind when you're talking about words. So in a biblical frame, wisdom governs decisions, timings, and outcomes. So it's essentially the same. Wisdom is going to be your capacity to choose the right cause to produce the right effect, regardless of time. Okay, so wisdom is outside of time. Now, I need y'all to understand this right now. What does that mean? Wisdom, you're going to understand it more as we go on. We're going to talk about understanding and knowledge, but there's a difference, okay? Because knowledge is only applicable to now. If you know something, you can only know now. A knowledge will only show you now. Basically what we're saying is it can only show you now. You have the knowledge. Let's say somebody had breakfast today. Let's say if you had breakfast today, you know you had breakfast today, but you only know that because you were there. But to show somebody else that you had breakfast today, you cannot. You can show them the evidence of you having breakfast today, but you can show them a video, which is considered the evidence, but it's not showing them that you had breakfast today. Knowledge only shows now. Okay. Now, after you show them the evidence or the video or what have you, the eyewitness account, they have to have wisdom to be able to decide to believe what you said or not. Okay. That's why wisdom is outside of time. These are deep things. Okay. You got to understand. And this is the whole point. This is the first course, Cycle Breaker Challenge. And so this is a very surface level thing compared to the other things that we have. So if you can't get this deep thing, I need you to lock in, because this is what's going to change the game. Okay. So we're going to keep going. We will revisit this in knowledge and understanding. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk about it now. So why wisdom transcends time? Knowledge can only show you now. Anything beyond now requires belief. Correct belief requires wisdom. Knowledge shows, wisdom decides. Okay. So you have to be able, in order to decide right from wrong, that's wisdom. Okay. Let's say if you are crossing the street, right? Let's say somebody tells you, look both ways before you cross the street. So now somebody told you that. Now you have the knowledge of, I need to look both ways before I cross the street. That doesn't mean you know why. And it also doesn't mean you're going to do it when the time comes. So you know to look both ways before you cross the street. Let's say you get out into the street and you don't do it. You get hit by a car. Boom. Oh, dang. Now I understand why they told me to look both ways before I cross the street. Would have got to the street and looked both ways before crossing the street and prevented you from getting hit. And wisdom, you can have wisdom without understanding. You could do the right thing without knowing why you're doing the right thing. Only thing you know is somebody told you. Okay. So knowledge shows, wisdom decides. So let's talk about having wisdom without understanding. Like I just said, it is possible to have wisdom, which is knowing what to do, without understanding, which is knowing why you're doing it. You can obey, but you cannot replicate. You can succeed, but you can't sustain. This is how you know if you have wisdom without understanding. All right. If you're not able to replicate what somebody else told you, you're only able to do what they said. You're unable to sustain the success. That's how you know that you're missing wisdom. Okay. You have to look at your life, look at the goals that you're trying to achieve, and look where you are, in a cycle that you're in, because the number one thing you need to figure out is which part is missing. What are you missing? Because that's the only reason people are in cycles, because they're missing something. They don't know something, or they don't understand something, or they don't have wisdom about something. Okay, so, and we're starting with wisdom because this is actually the most important thing. Okay, the most important thing you can have is wisdom. Standing is the framework that makes wisdom repeatable. Okay, so that's going to bring us to understanding, because wisdom, like I said with the crossing the street example, you can get out there and cross the street, but after a while, you don't even know why you're doing it. Eventually, you might decide not to be wise anymore because you don't understand it. Okay, and that's why understanding is going to allow wisdom to be repeatable. It's going to allow you to have continued outcomes, because now you understand which part is which. So let's talk about power versus wisdom, because power executes, power is force, power is now immediate, and power exhausts, it runs out. Okay, whereas wisdom governs. Wisdom is a strategy. Wisdom is going to be eternal, past, present, future, and wisdom sustains. Okay, power is the engine, whereas wisdom is the steering wheel. Just like I said with the axe, you can put as much power as you want in, and if your axe is dull, it's just going to wear you out. But if you have power and wisdom, you got a sharp axe and you're putting in more power, now you're doing more than anybody before you. Okay, you're doing more than you could have done before by putting the effort and the strategy. So the reason you might stay stuck is if you're applying force to a system that absorbs. You're putting in effort without wisdom, and all you're doing is fueling the cycle. If you push blindly, then and the pattern is strengthening, that's how you know you're not using wisdom. Because power without wisdom just strengthens the system that you're fleeing. If the problem is that your axe, you're not able to cut enough wood, and you're like, well, let me put more effort into it. But the more effort you're putting into it, the duller you're making the axe, the worse it's becoming. More power. Let's give an example. I've been giving an example of the dog scenario, right? Where you're trying to train your dog, but he keeps getting distracted. So you have to come up with some ways to get him to learn. You're like, this dog's not learning. And so you just do the same thing at a greater scale, right? Meaning, let's say you're yelling at him. You're like, oh, yelling at your dog. So you yell louder and you yell louder. You're making it worse. Now the dog is like traumatized. And this is a real world example. You can use any example. The more effort you're putting into something without the wisdom, you're going to make it worse. Okay, it's just that simple. So if you're in a cycle where it seems like every time you try, you go, oh, I tried to put the effort, but it came out worse than what it was when I didn't try. It's because you're not using wisdom. You're putting more power without the wisdom. All right. Wisdom needs a framework. All right. Wisdom decides the strike. It's going to decide when, where, how to strike. Understanding is going to map the target. Okay, you cannot govern a system you don't understand. So that's going to be in lesson 2, which is going to be understanding. So that's coming up. So go through the exercise, answer the questions. If you can't answer them, go back to the beginning. As a matter of fact, we're just going to go through it together right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at the work exercise. Let's see. Okay, if you haven't answered these questions, go ahead and pause the video, go through the questions, and then unpause it so we can go through this together. So, wisdom versus power, cycle breaker challenge, exercise 3. This is going to be a level 1 exercise. Answer all 10 questions. It's going to be multiple choice. Select A, B, C, or D. Short answer, you're going to write 1 to 2 sentences maximum. Okay, it's a short answer. We're not writing whole essays. I don't think it gives you enough space to write a whole essay anyway. I mean, you could do whatever you want. If you want to take notes, just it's for your benefit. Number 1, what is the locked definition of wisdom? We got the ability to think deeply about problems, the capacity to choose the right cause to produce the right effect, regardless of time, We have the knowledge of what happened in the past, or the power to make others obey your decisions. Well, obviously D is wrong, right? We're not forcing people to make decisions. We know C is wrong because it says the knowledge, which that would be knowledge. Wisdom and knowledge are not the same thing. So that leaves A and B. We got the ability to think deeply about problems, or the capacity to choose the right cause to produce the right effect regardless of time. And if you said B, then you chose correctly, okay? Wisdom is the capacity to choose the right cause to produce the right effect regardless of time. Let's talk about cause and effect, okay, real quick. We have cause and we have effect, okay? These are going to be your triggers. If you have a cause and you have an effect, the cause created the effect, but they're two separate entities, which means there has to be a bridge across. The bridge from cause to effect is the understanding. The cause and the effect are the knowledge. So the first thing you should have is the knowledge of the cause and the knowledge of the effect. The bridge in between is understanding how the cause got to the effect, okay? Wisdom comes in when, let's say, you have a desired effect, but this cause is not producing that effect. Wisdom is going to tell you how to produce the cause to get the right cause to get the right effect, okay? So that's what we're talking about here. Let's keep going. Number 2, in Ecclesiastes 10 verse 10, the blunt axe represents what? We got lack of intelligence, misapplied effort, laziness, or broken tools. So obviously it's not laziness, right? Because the axe can't be lazy, plus the axe is doing the work. Broken tools, not, because it's not broken, it's just not sharp. We have misapplied effort and lack of intelligence. You could say lack of intelligence, but it's not about being smart, because you could be smart and know that you need that sharpening your axe. Remember, you can know that sharpening your axe will create a more efficient result. But until you act on it, you're not acting in wisdom. That's when people have book smart versus street smart. People who are book smart, they know it. People who are street smart, they do it. Okay, so that leaves us with B, misapplied effort. You're applying more effort in chopping the wood with a blunt axe instead of sharpening it to make the work easier. Number 3, what is the relationship between power and wisdom? A, power and wisdom are the same thing. We know that's not true. Power is the engine, wisdom is the steering wheel. B, C, wisdom is more important than power, or power replaces the need for wisdom. Now, C and D is not correct. Wisdom is not more important than power, and power doesn't replace the need for wisdom, which means that it has to be B, which power is the engine, wisdom is the steering wheel. And if you go back in the slides, you know that, and if you took notes or if you paid attention, you know that's the case. Question 4, what is the following, or which of the following is not required for answered prayer? We got A, listening, B, discernment, C, obedience, or D, confidence in your own judgment. Not required. So I'm thinking that's going to be D, because you need to listen. If you don't have, if you pray and you don't listen, you're not going to get the answer. If you pray and you don't obey, it's not going to do anything for you. If you pray without discernment, you're not going to know right from wrong. And we haven't talked about discernment, but discernment is knowing the difference between right and wrong. So you don't need to have confidence in your own judgment if you're praying. That's the whole point of praying, is to put all the burden on God, Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Number 5, what happens when power is applied without wisdom? A, cycle breaks faster. B, the system you're trying to escape strengthens. C, you gain more control. Or D, you develop better skills. When you apply power without wisdom, this is going to be B. The system you're trying to escape strengthens. Okay, you're defeating yourself. Okay. 6, sin, separation, and misalignment are interchangeable terms. What do they describe? We got different types of mistakes, stages of spiritual growth, disobedience or acting against wisdom, or levels of intelligence. Disobedience is going to lead you or keep you in separation from God. So that's going to be it. You don't need to be smart to be out of sin. Mistakes are not the same as being separated. Okay, as long as you get back within alignment, It's not stages of spiritual growth. Okay. 7. Why can knowledge alone not show? Oh, let me fix the camera here. Sorry, guys. Oh, we won't worry about it. Crap. Anyways, why can knowledge alone not show you the future? A, knowledge is limited to the present moment. B, anything beyond now requires belief, which requires wisdom. C, knowledge is less valuable than power, or knowledge changes every day. So A, B, and C are all true, but C is not true. Why can knowledge alone not show you the future? I think that needs to be rewritten, that question. Knowledge is limited. Anything? Yeah, that question is written backwards. But the answer will be C. So anyways, well, C is the only one that is not true. We'll say it that way. 8. What is the difference between wisdom and understanding? So you want to make sure you answer that question. If you don't know the answer, go back, watch the video. Actually, here, let me pull up the answer. Anything along the lines of wisdom, acts, and understanding is self-explanatory. It understands. It knows the route from cause to effect. 9. Why is applying power without wisdom a critical error? Is going to keep you in a cycle. Is going to cause you to work harder. Anything along those lines. 10. What does it mean when wisdom does not replace power? It directs it. So basically, that means that wisdom and power are not oppositionally opposed to each other, meaning you need one without the other. You need both. If you have one and you don't use the other one, then you're doing it wrong. That's it for this lesson. So lesson 2, as you see, we got understanding coming up next. So go ahead and go to the next lesson and keep it moving. Let's break those cycles. Gang.